So let's talk about that. As somebody who thinks that R2 is going to be a huge success, and you're probably going to have a pretty significant demand for them. At what point do you see Rivian becoming profitable? Does the Georgia plant coming online in 2028, is that necessary for Rivian to become profitable? Or
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, go ahead.
it's a great question because it's sort of what the question depends on what the objective is. So if our objective was narrowly, like in a narrow sense, just to get to positive free cash flow, and that was our only goal, then we could get there with just our Illinois facilities. But that would mean we'd have to reduce spending on future CapEx, future growth, future products. But our objective is, again, to build a large multi-million vehicle a year company. And so while the ramp up of R2 and normal is going to generate a lot of positive free cash flow, we're also going to be ramping up our spending to support the build out of Georgia, to support growing our infrastructure. As you know, we're going to be launching in Europe, which should require us to invest. And we're launching in Europe with a similar model to what we have in the United States. So it's a direct sales model where the CapEx and OpEx to build out sales infrastructure, distribution infrastructure, and service infrastructure, is cash consuming on the front end. And so all that being said, it really depends. Could we? Yes. But are we instead focused on getting to a place where we'll generate, we have a path to get to positive EBITDA pretty quickly. And Claire and I have talked about this in public earnings calls, but we're also not going to slow down the CapEx and the growth in the business, which is going to come in Georgia.
Okay. That means profitability or cash flow positive profitability is going to be down the road. But
yeah, but I think there's a really important point, which is R1 I talked about this, right? Has the challenge of the bill of material, the cost of goods sold, really driven primarily by the bill of materials,
right?
And elevated. We've worked hard to get that to a place where on a cash basis, the product does make money. So in Q4, R1 was generating over $2,000 of profit per vehicle on a cash basis.
It's the depreciation that kills it, right?
I was going to say R1 actually gets more profitable just with the launch of R2 because we spread the fixed, the depreciation cost across more units.
And just to be clear, so that people understand, this is the depreciation on the manufacturing facility.
Yeah. So things like our paint shop, when it's just producing R1 and EDV, it has, what is the total capital that gets depreciated per year is divided by a small number of vehicles. As we increase the number of vehicles produced from this plant, the depreciation per unit will drop quite a bit, by the way. But this is the important part is R2, by the end of this year, we will start to demonstrate gross margin economics that are reflective of the potential of the business. And it no longer requires all the extrapolations or the sophisticated math that I just described of these things like spread. You'll actually be able to just see it. You'll just see it in the gross margin number. And of course,
the gross margin of automotive by itself without taking the software into consideration, automotive by itself.
The software, as you know, is a very profitable part of the business. And there's a lot of opportunity for more there. Your first question sort of alluded to that, with other manufacturers going to need a lot of technology. But just the gross margin of the pure auto business will start to shine through. And then in 2027, you'll start to see that more and more. And then as we get closer and closer and demonstrate the demand of R2, get closer to Georgia, that's where we really start to see the scale effects of all this vertical integration, all these things we have a lot of fixed investment around, go from cost headwinds because we vertically integrated them because they're internal fixed cost to then structural cost advantages because of the efficiency of taking out a lot of layers of cost. So we take out on the go-to-market side, we take out paying a third party 10 to 15% to sell our cars. And at scale, all that infrastructure that we're paying for starts to really be an advantage. For motors, drivetrains, electronics, all those items where we don't use tier ones, that starts to really pay for itself as well. And that dynamic it shouldn't be too surprising, because Tesla has some similar dynamics where they vertically integrated fairly heavily.
Yeah.
And, the underlying cost advantages of that at scale, you can really see with the scale of Model 3, Model Y.